Welcome to the Nutrition Collaborative podcast, where we cut through the noise, bust the myths, and bring you nothing but truth about health, fitness, and everything in between. I'm Alec Moore, dietitian, and each week we'll dive into what really works when it comes to achieving lasting health and fitness. No gimmicks, no BS, just real talk, real success stories, and a holistic approach to living your healthiest life. Whether you're here for practical tips, inspiration from real client journeys, or just to find out what's actually worth your time, this is the podcast for you. Let's break it down, get empowered, and focus on what truly matters for your health. Episode 5 of the NC podcast. This one is going to be on macros versus meal plans. I have a lot of clients that do macros. I have a lot of clients that do meal plans. I have a lot of clients that do a hybrid of in between. Macros give you freedom, while meal plans give you structure. But what do you actually need? Let's go ahead and unpack the difference here. And I think I want to start with meal plans, actually. So what are meal plans exactly? Well, meal plans are a list of foods to eat exactly what type of food, how much of that food, in a portioned out amount, and meal times throughout the day. So it is very much low flexibility, just follow and go. And that alone can be why and where we have issues with meal plans, or issues arise with meal plans. Meal plans get a lot of freaking hate. They get a ton of hate because when we think of meal plans, we think of a meal plan that never changes. We think of a meal plan that forces us to eat foods that we don't like to eat. We know when we think of meal plan, we think of just a plan. That has no transient capabilities. Like it's not flexible enough. You can't recommend changes. You can't eat something different the next day. You have to eat the same thing every single day. Well, what if we made multiple meal plans for someone? What if we made those meal plans accommodate their food preferences? What if we made those meal plans rotate on an alternating menu week over week? And what if we maybe taught the reason why we're doing something specific within the meal plan? I think meal plans are the most underrated, and that's going to be an odd take for a lot of you. You're going to definitely be looking at me like, what? Probably the most powerful when it comes to nutrition education. And one of the biggest complaints I hear about meal plans is that they don't teach you anything. Everybody says that. Of course they don't teach you anything if you're doing them wrong, and if you don't accommodate to the individual's preferences, their dislikes. Oh, well, they don't like cod. Okay, well, don't put it in their meal plan. They don't have time for a big, huge recipe every meal. Okay, then make it more convenient. Give them a chicken wrap or a turkey sandwich. Meal plans don't have to be what the maker of the meal plan wants. It should be what the individual needs. Yes, of course, with calculations, appropriate and proper calculations, but it should also be based on their food preferences, their structure of meals throughout the day, like their meal timing. If they don't like to eat past XYZ time, they don't have to. It should accommodate those things with the client or the individual. Meal plans, what do they teach? Well, portions, portion control, meal composition, what makes up a plate, meal timing, preventing you from snacking all day or snacking all night, how much a digestible amount of protein looks like, how to get your fiber in spaced out throughout the day without over or under consuming one particular area of the day, how to regulate your calorie intake, how to regulate your macro intake. And what I mean by regulate is how to eat the same amount each day. Like, what does that look like on a meal plan structure or basis? I think meal plans get a lot of hate because when we think of them as like a stigma of meal plans, we think of, oh, it's just chicken and rice and broccoli 3, 4, 5 times a day. Sure, it can be that, but it should not be that. And those meal plans are not great, right? Those meal plans don't teach you anything. But what if every single week you asked the person, what's sounding good right now? Like, what's sounding appetizing to you? What are your food cravings this week? When is your lunch break at work? When can we get these meals in? Do they have to be convenient? Are they able to be fully cooked every single day? Do you have time for that? Oh, you can't eat fish at all. Okay. Oh, you're allergic to XYZ. Customized meal plans versus just someone giving you a cookie cutter meal plan. If you do them right at the right times, they are wildly profound on someone's health and fitness journey, learning the ropes of basic nutrition and weight management. So meal plans. Here's what I also love about them. An additional note here on meal plans. They can jumpstart someone's journey without them having to know or have any prior existing knowledge of nutrition. They can jump right in, follow, and get great results just like that without any buffer time between getting the plan, quote unquote plan, and executing on said plan. If I give someone macros as a coach, then, and they've never done it before, I can teach them, but it's going to take several weeks for them to really dial it in. That several weeks is wasted time. We could be busy getting results. Then slowly transitioning into macros over time as they get more familiar with portioning their food, with proper grocery shopping for a specific meal plan, 7 days a week, 5 days a week. Once they get acclimated to that meal schedule, once they know what 30 to 40 grams of protein looks like, once they know what 50 grams of carbs looks like, once they know what the carbs in an apple versus a sweet potato versus candy looks like, it's all from that meal plan. They're going to learn it through that meal plan and proper questions and rotating that menu of that meal plan, etc. So I'm hyping meal plans up a lot right now, but there are some risks and, side effects or cons. We'll just say cons. They can induce burnout over time if not updated regularly enough or changed or alternated regularly enough. That can be something. They don't allow a lot of flexibility. So if you're really, really just not in the mood to eat XYZ today, that's all that's on your meal plan, and you don't have a second option meal plan to choose from for those instances, which you should. That would be great. But if in that instance, yeah, you can't just change things on the fly for meal plan specific things if you're not set up appropriately to do so. I try to do that for my people. You could have this or this or this, and it gives a couple different maybe carb options or a couple different fruit options or veggie options. So flexibility is definitely the biggest con. And then, like I said, burnout risk essentially. Just doing the same thing over and over and over again turns into like Groundhog Day. They kind of start to resent the other things in their plan, not just the hydration, not just the meal plan, but also their step goals and their cardio and their workouts and just the process of it all. They might start to resent it. So keeping it fresh and up to date is ideal. And always curating to that individual, because some weeks they might want something more like Mediterranean, and other weeks they want something a little bit, more savory. And then the next week, maybe they don't want anything savory. So being able to rotate that consistently is important. Education, yes. If you blindly follow a meal plan and you don't ask for substitutions or ask for your preferences or ask for it to be customized or get it to be customized, then yes, it's not going to teach you much and you're really not learning as you go. But with a modifiable, fully customized type of meal plan approach, there is that opportunity. You can absolutely learn a ton from it. Take that each week, and then once you get to a certain level of knowledge, turn it into following macros. That's a great domino effect, a great step-by-step process of learning there. So then you can start doing macros. The learning curve for both of these are different. Learning curve for a meal plan is very negligible. You just get a food scale. Oh, it says 100 grams of egg whites. I put 100 grams of egg whites down. That's very, very easy for most people. But if I just give someone 200 grams of protein a day and I say, go figure it out, and they've never tracked macros or they're not familiar with nutrition at all, nutritional content at all, then they're probably gonna have a hard time doing that and hitting their protein goal. So meal plans can also be tough when it comes to setting someone up for independence or autonomy in their own journey. So maybe it looks like an appropriate strategy could look like, okay, for the next 8 to 12 weeks, we're going to follow a meal plan. And then ahead of time, that individual knows after that 12 weeks, roughly 10 to 12 weeks, we will start working on macros. And here's a great thing to do, actually, when you're transitioning between meal plans and macros. You can even have the individual start tracking their meal plans as is, just mimicking it, just so they get into that process of food tracking, and then they understand oh, okay, I know how to punch all of this in to make up a meal. I see like where you're allocating different macros throughout the day. This is starting to make sense. Oh, I hit my macros because I followed it identically. Now what if I tried to do this food or that food, or I wanted to substitute chicken for turkey, or I wanted, I don't want chicken for 2 meals in a row. I'd really like to have some salmon tonight. Okay, well, what does that do to my fat content? Okay, maybe I'll check out the avocado of that meal and from the chicken meal, and now I have room for protein and fat from the salmon alone, yada yada yada. They learn as they go, so you could do a 2 to 4 week transition period between meal plans and macros where you're just simply tracking what the meal plan says, and then you pull the meal plan and then say, let's give a trial run this week, and then I'll coach you day to day on it. So you could do that as well. So I'm not here in this podcast episode to say, oh, I'm all about meal plans or I'm all about macros. In fact, the long-term goal, I'm all for neither of them for the long-term goal, because the long-term goal should be more of an intuitive approach. It really depends on your goals. So we have to be careful with the intuitive eating for athletes of all kinds. It could be really hard to stimulate proper appetite and hunger levels in athletes to have sufficient nourishment coming in all the time, and hydration too. That's why most athletes are extremely dehydrated. So intuitively speaking, it would be really hard for an athlete to get their demands without being reminded to eat and told to eat on a schedule, higher calorie foods, etc. So that's just something to think of when we're thinking of the transition from meal plans to macros. So let's talk about some pros and cons of macros. Well, the pros are definitely the flexibility, as we discussed. Another pro of macros would be full autonomy. So yes, flexibility, but also independence and autonomy on, today I could choose that I want this for breakfast. Tomorrow I could do a complete opposite. With meal plans, it's a little bit more tricky. With macros, it's more flexible. But if you know how to do it, that's cool. That's great. Do it. But if you don't, then you might want to do meal plans. So another pro of macros is you could follow macros on the go or at home or at an event. It doesn't matter. You can track macros versus a meal plan. It's like, well, I can't really follow that meal plan. I'm at this big work conference. How am I supposed to take my foods in? You're not gonna be able to. That's where the beauty of and the power of macros really is day to day. You can change things up if you're on the go a lot. So if you're a frequent traveler for work or business or whatever you do, then meal plan is probably not the best route. We can definitely come up with like convenient sources for sure, like to get you through maybe the first couple of meals a day, but it will become inevitably really difficult to sustain a meal plan on the go like that if you're between 3 to 4 different cities a week, which some really are a lot. So let's go cons of macros. Biggest one is using macros the wrong way, like if it fits your macros. So trying to squeeze in calorically dense or energy dense food items that you probably shouldn't be allocating toward breakfast. So maybe someone's overshooting, they have 50 grams of fat they need for the day, and they do 32 at breakfast. It's like, well, then you only have 18 the rest of the day because you chose to eat pancakes and bacon and sausage at breakfast. So you went way too high on your fats too early in the day, and now you're going to be over your fats before the end of the day if you don't get really strategic with the rest of your intake for the day. So, or they fill up on like macro-friendly recipes or macro-friendly this or that, but they're not actually getting a lot of good nutrients from those items, such as like a protein bar. I hate to break it to you, but protein bars, yes, they have some protein, maybe some very minor other nutrients in them, but they're not really, I'm not going to say that they're not real food, because technically, yes, it's real food. It is a supplement though. It is not intended to be, like when you look at the back, it's probably going to say supplement facts, depending on the product. If it's a shake, if it's a bar, it's probably going to say nutrition facts. But the point here is that you don't have to make up all your macros with these additive-filled, protein-rich products that you just have to put like water in and microwave really quick. I used to be a big fan of these, but it led to a lot of gut disruptions for myself and all my clients over the past few years, time and time again. I never recommend, this isn't even a part of the episode, but this is going to help, I promise. I never recommend more than 1 bar and shake a day. And if you do 1 bar and 1 shake a day, that's fine. But when you start doing, two protein bars and a protein shake, and then like this like protein muffin that goes in the microwave, and then you have like 1 or 2 meals outside of that, your gut is going to be wrecked. You're not getting hardly any nutrients, real good nutrients from that. Yes, you're hitting your macros, but you're missing the mark on so many other important things and nutrients and minerals and antioxidants, electrolytes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the main reason though is the gut stuff, is because every single time I'm bloated or I'm constipated or I'm this or I'm that, I have all these symptoms. Let's look at your food diary or your food journal for this week. I see 2 Bear Bells a day, Bear Bell protein bars. I see, a protein shake, and then, some other like supplemental form of protein source that isn't a real meal. So that's a risk we run with macros, and it's a big one. People are still doing it all the time and wondering why they're either starving or have terrible energy or their hair's falling out, yada, 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 because they're just relying on macros, not micros as well. Very important. Okay, so macros. We're still on macros. It can be time consuming. Sitting there, making up your macros all day at work, in between meals, in between meetings, like, oh, I gotta take care of the kids. I have to be at work all day. I have to go to the gym and back. How am I supposed to do all of these things and hit my protein when have a million responsibilities, etc.? Pre-tracking helps with macros. So that's something you could do. This is where a meal plan would probably benefit you really well for a period of time. And that's another thing about meal plans. You don't have to do them permanently. They could be for a couple weeks. It could be for a couple months. They could be just at times where you feel your nutrition is getting super unstructured due to the just habit of life or habits of life and the go. You could a meal plan could kind of reset you. It could get you reestablished with your nutritional structure, and then you get confident in that nutritional structure and that consistency again, and that daily structure and routine. Then you can go back into macros once you feel appropriate again. So you don't, like, these are all seasons and phases. You don't have to just be like, I'm a macro goer, or I'm a macro person forever, or I'm a meal plan person forever. Honestly, I find benefits in like a hybrid approach to both. When it comes to, okay, Monday through Friday, I'm on a meal plan. Saturday, Sunday, I'm out with the crew a little bit. I'm here and there. I'm on the go more. Macros are a more appropriate thing for me, as long as I actually stick to them and I don't turn this into a Monday through Friday perfect meal plan deficit, and then Saturday, Sunday, weekend, no tracking, no nutritional structure, binge. That's what we don't want to do or facilitate. So just checking in on that individual, whoever it is, or checking in with yourself. If it is you, let's not fall into that. But yeah, macros. Sorry, that was a little side tangent there on meal plans. Anyways, macros. Yes, time consuming, but throughout the day, you should probably be sitting when you're eating, right? So for good digestion, and so you can just take a break from your dang day and you're not just rushing through your meal with it like during a literal meeting or in between meetings for 3 minutes, scarfing food down. If you sit with it, what else are you doing? You probably have your phone nearby. You could probably track your macros. So tracking food efficiently throughout the day at different times, you could do that, or you could pre-track the whole day before and set yourself up for structured success. Things may, have to be changed on the fly, but at least you have a template or framework to go from the day prior. So planning and preparing when it comes to like pre-tracking things can be very helpful with macros, if not on a meal plan, to prevent the stress of creating your own foods and meals from the macros in the first place. So which one's better? Well, it depends on, I guess, macros versus meal plans. Which one is better? Well, it depends on what your goals are, of course, what your daily structure and routine looks like, your prior existing knowledge when it comes to nutrition education, what your preferences are when it comes to a routine to follow, or if you have to like to be in control a little bit more over the meticulousness of it. If you have time to create your own macros and meals, if you just don't have time and you want somebody else to tell you what to do, but follow XYZ, then somebody who's doing it right or the right way can and will do that. I don't want to talk all day about macros and meal plans, because there's other ways to do it. You don't have to just do macros and meal plans. You could do hand portions. It depends on the goal, obviously. If your goal is to step on, a competition, like a fitness bodybuilding competition, then sure, like that's not going to happen. You're going to have to weigh that everything you eat. But for most people, you could probably look into hand portions and guesstimate, and find great success in that. You could eventually get to intuitive eating. But I think macros and meal plans are the core foundation of nutritional education and instilling that into your routine. So you don't have to be on macros forever. You don't have to be on meal plans forever. You could do a hybrid of both for a period of time. You can kind of come and go with them, but they do teach you so much. And then once you have a profound, vast knowledge on all of these subjects when it comes to food and nutrition, you have it for the rest of your life. So then you can either, fade in and out of macros or intuitively eat, because it's just becoming second nature. It's building blocks. Macros and meal plans are literally building blocks. And sometimes we can come back to those building blocks. So you don't have to be like, I'm too good for these, macros or meal plans. I know too much for XYZ. It's like, I'm a coach, I'm a dietitian. I still follow macros, but sometimes I'll do it intuitively because I can, because I have that knowledge, and you literally can too. So it's not about macros versus meal plans. That is the two sole strategies. There's also the hand portions, like I said. There's also intuitive eating over time. It has to become intuitive. You can't just start out at intuitive eating. You have to learn how to become an intuitive eater, because you have to learn hunger, appetite, fiber, right? Protein, hydration, food composition, meals, snacks, portions, meal timing. You have to learn the ropes from macros and meal plans in order to be able to follow it intuitively. That's like telling somebody to get into a car for the first time and just go intuitively. You'll learn. You learn how to brake. You'll learn how to turn. You'll figure it out. There's driving courses for a reason. To recap, I guess we have to look at a couple things here just to decide what best or most appropriate for you. So we want to emphasize the goal, and at the end of the day with your journey, and the goal of the journey is going to be empowerment, sustainability, and education. Empowerment, sustainability, and education. So you can empower somebody with a meal plan. You can educate them. Make sure that you educate them or empower them on beyond that as well. So I'm not here to beef between macros and meal plans. I think they're both great. And it just depends on when you implement them, how you implement them, to consider it being the right approach for you or not. So meal plans do get a lot of hate, but I truly don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. So pick which one makes you feel the most empowered and capable, which one gives you the best education for that specific period of time in your life that you're using it, and which one is more sustainable for you at that specific time. For some people, a more sustainable route is the meal plan, because it might be less stressful for them to not have to think about every single day what their meals are going to look like. It's just given. Over time, it might become more sustainable for it to be a more macro-based approach. For others, maybe this more sustainable approach is macros. Maybe they work from home and they have more time to cook the foods and create meals on their own. Maybe they don't have a family. Maybe they don't travel for work all the time, right? So we just have to look at the individual. So those who say that meal plans don't teach you anything, you're not looking at the individual. So you have to educate them, empower them, and make sure that it is the right sustainable decision at that time, and give them the tools and resources they need to build upon that said meal plan into macros, into hand portions, into intuitive eating over. So I hope this helps understand the difference between macros and meal plans, what the pros and cons of both are, and as a dietitian, why I think that meal plans are highly underrated and super duper powerful when it comes to nutritional education on these journeys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next week, as always.